Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's time for our Sunday Live interview. And as I've been mentioning, EACC Chair Philip Kinisu joins us now to talk about corruption, the war. Is there a war on corruption? And, of course, the operations of the EACC. Welcome once again. You know, since its inception as KECC, nobody has sat in your position and left ceremoniously. I wonder if you're worried at all about what your tenure will be like and whether you'll have a gracious departure at all.
Thanks, Anne. I mean, what a great question to start with. Basically, at the point at which I was coming into the commission, I was familiar with the history that the commission had gone through. And basically, coming forward, I and other commissioners intend to contribute to the fight against corruption. So we are well aware of that history and the ceremonial issues that people had.
And it doesn't worry you?
It doesn't worry me so far because we are determined. But having said that, the way that we're treating that history is it is a source of learning. All those challenges that my predecessors had, we're looking at them as kind of sources of what not to do. We've actually learned from it, and we hope that applying those lessons, we shall be perhaps more successful.
What should you not do?
One, don't go it alone. None of the commissioners would get anywhere if they thought that they were working on their own. Teamwork is emphasized. Two, remember to work for the national interest as opposed to the narrow interests that are quite tempting when you're in such a position.
All right. There's a belief in John Givongo, the former anti-corruption czar. We've seen him in a previous story saying that well-connected cartels are controlling EACC. Is that one of the lessons that you have learned?
I wouldn't be that specific. I mean, I've been in office for a month and 11 days. Clearly, if there are cartels there, they would have taken steps to hide themselves well enough for one not to see them, obviously. But it is possible. I mean, this is our country. We know how things work. It's possible that there could be cartels that, in fact, do have an interest in how EACC works.
And what exactly do you think you'd be able to do about it?
Let me put one point clear that if EACC is going to be successful in its mandate, we have to be above board. We, the commissioners, and our staff have to be holier than thou. And we're starting from having a very good look at ourselves first before we even go out to take the war to the rest of the country. You may have heard about vetting of staff. You may have heard about lifestyle audits. We're going to be applying those measures on ourselves first, and then we'll go out to do the work that the Kenyans have given us. So
are you going to be doing exactly that? I mean, the Kafura affidavit specifically alleges that officials in EACC aren't anything but holier than thou, that they would warn suspects of raids at their homes. Are you investigating such claims, and will you be conducting those lifestyle audits that you're talking about on your staff?
As we speak, work is underway on the framework for that audit. Yes, is the short answer. We're going to be looking at our staff and indeed ourselves as the commissioners. We'll take information from whatever source in order to enable us to do a good job of that vetting. Can you investigate yourselves, though? The framework will provide for a process that is sufficiently professional, where we need others to help us. Remember that in government we've had experience with vetting in other ministries, other institutions. We'll draw from that set of skills in order to do our own vetting as well. And yet even that doesn't inspire too much confidence. We've had vetting of various other public officers. The police have vetting. A few months later you find out that somebody who went through the vetting process has been alleged to take part in some sort of corruption. What confidence do you have that even those structures are insulated against manipulation? I think the difference this time is, I mean, I take your point that yes, we've had people go through the vetting and perhaps they haven't done so. The difference this time is we are enriching it with actually going deeper and looking at people's lifestyles. Corruption is about money. Corruption is about acquiring assets unfairly. So by going deeper, first you do the standard vetting that we've done before, and actually look deeper at what people have. Can they explain it? All right. Do you believe you need political support to do your job well? More than 100%, because without political support, that war cannot be won. And the government today says that, they've committed more resources to the fight against corruption than any previous administration. And
yet at the same time, the public is saying that the president needs to do more. He needs to begin by looking at his close aides. Some say that he should be making political realignments if it comes up to that. From where you sit, what political support can the president give you?
I think I can answer that by saying, you know, it takes more than money. It takes more than the institutions we build. It takes more than the law to win the war against graft. It takes people's behavior. It takes commitment from that highest level, and I've seen it spoken about by the president. I've seen it spoken about by the deputy president. I've seen it spoken about by some of the leaders. But it actually takes more than that.
Than the speaking about it. So
yes.
What exactly does it take?
Let me suggest this as one of the strategies we are right now developing. That every corruption incident that you are aware of happens under somebody's watch. There's usually a CEO, there's a finance officer, there's probably a cabinet minister somewhere. These individuals are paid by the public to look after the public resources. Now, when corruption happens, and somehow we do not hold them to account, we're not doing the right thing. Where we would like to start from is, if you have a job to look after public resources and they get misapplied under your watch, you should bear the consequences, in addition to obviously looking for the criminal elements under you who may have. How
is that different from what the current administration has already done? I think more than 6, cabinet secretaries have been sent home on various, corruption allegations.
Yeah, I think I would answer that with another question, which is to say, is that enough?
I don't know. Is it? You're the man in charge.
Right.
What would be enough for you?
I put it to you that it's not enough, because we have a lot of instances of malpractice, a lot of instances of corruption under whose watch, under the watches of various senior people, and those consequences have not been expressed in them, either being suspended, being sacked, being disciplined as provided for by law.
And yet your answer still remains very vague to me. What specifically can the Jubilee administration do beyond sending people home to wait for a probe?
The following is what is required. If a corruption incident happens under the watch of an individual, there are provisions in law which should be applied so that at the very least that individual doesn't continue in that position. There are institutions, my institution included, who then take up the case and prosecute it.
Okay.
We're not doing enough of that.
Okay, so you're basically saying that institutions like DPP, etc., should be, the courts eventually should do their job, I suppose is what you're saying. I want to follow up on the progress of various corruption scams, and then go to our audience questions. I'll begin with NYS. Following the Kafura and Waiguru affidavits, at what specific stage are the investigations, and what new evidence is EACC considering?
Right, I think I'll probably not go into the details of the ongoing investigations, plus the type of evidence that people are looking at, because that may in fact prejudice the work that is being done. So with your permission, I'll pass that question, but share on the fact that, in fact, is something I said earlier, that the NYS case was a baptism of fire for EACC. The EACC we had just walked into, for us to find that perhaps the methodology that was being used, the approach that was being used in these investigations, wasn't necessarily giving the right answers or all the answers. And then the unfortunate incident where you have an institution issuing a clearance on somebody, and then soon thereafter, things do come up, and we have to we appear to be kind of...
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. is writing in and is asking specifically about that clearance. He says, how come the letter by the EACC CEO to Kenya, the head of the public service, has not been withdrawn, and under what capacity did Halake Wako clear Anne Waiguru of any wrongdoing?
Basically, that letter is no different from what you get when you go to the CID for a clearance. It only clears you up to the point when it's issued to you. So that if any new information comes after you've got the letter, it's worthless. So the clearance that she got is actually worthless as we look at issues going forward.
Unless she has that letter in hand.
It still doesn't. I mean, once you get it, up to that point in time, you're cleared. But thereafter, if there's new information, that letter does not cover what comes up thereafter.
And you talked about teamwork in doing these investigations. Was the entire team part of Halake Wako's clearance of Anne Waiguru?
You want to appreciate the fact that the basis of the letter was work that had been done before we came into office, and the fact that processes, in fact, that would release letters like those had not been streamlined to fully involve all of the parties that would need to be involved in order for the letters to be given. He
was working as a lone ranger, is what you say?
Perhaps working on the momentum of what he was doing when there were no commissioners. So I think that's the long and short of it.
Do you remain confident in his work as the CEO?
I would rather not say that. He's in office. He's doing his job. We have a process, as I mentioned, where we're going to go through to vet all of us, including commissioners, for proper fit for the job.
How long will that process take? Because one would worry that it's going to further prejudice ongoing investigations. I
shouldn't think so. We do have a framework that recognizes we have a burden in terms of doing the work that is ongoing. But at the same time, we do not want to go too far into the future with individuals who perhaps are not doing as good a job as we would like them to. And it's a requirement by law, by the way, for us to have to do this.
So no time frame?
The time frame, we're looking at end of July for us to kind of finish the exercise.
A lot could happen by the end of July.
Absolutely. I fully agree.
Wow.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yes.
Right. I want to press on to Chicken Gate. I will not ask you at what stage the investigations are, since you said that can prejudice it. But having said that, let me take in another audience question. Yusuf Mwinyi, you're writing in and you're asking if Chicken Gate evidence suffices to convict in UK courts, yet EACC is still dazed. Why not copy-paste or quit?
That's a good question. We cannot copy-paste because the UK is a different jurisdiction to us. The individuals mentioned in there have rights under our laws, and yes, we are making use of the evidence that has come to us through the mutual legal assistance. That evidence is being used to put together the case against the individuals. Remember that the UK investigation actually took 11 years, since 2005 until now when it's concluding. We have engaged with it for this is now the second year. But having said that, most of the work has been done, and we can expect that our own investigations and our own prosecution, if it comes to that, will be a lot speedier, to be a lot faster.
Will it be faster than the next general election? Because it implicates current office holders. IEBC Chairman Issa Kasana has been adversely mentioned in the same. It is causing, of course, a lot of anxiety in terms of the credibility of the current commission, even though he will not be in office by the time we're going to 2017. But in the run-up to it still, there's a question about a person who has been implicated in graft being able to influence processes that lead up to the 2017 general election. Will you be done before then?
The fact is we got the mutual legal assistance information at the end of January. The team has been working on it quite studiously over the last 3 weeks. We expect within a month or so for us to be concluded with the 2 Chicken Gate cases, and that's one involving Kenya National Examination Council and the interim the
independent Electoral Boundaries
Commission. That's right. Yeah.
Fair enough. Let me take in finally some other audience questions. Paul Muite is asking, the Chief Justice has invited EACC to carry out a forensic lifestyle audit of judges. When will you start doing that?
Excellent question. Conversations have started. The framework we're building is the same framework we're going to use on ourselves, and we expect, again, within the next 2-3 months, for you to be getting news of that.
Charlie KE says EACC is always on a knee-jerk mode. Is EACC overwhelmed by cases or unwilling to conclude them?
Right, to deal with that, we are adopting a slightly different approach to investigations compared to what we've had before. We're going to be having a corruption map of the country, ranking different institutions for their proneness to corruption. We'll then target our resources to them. So that it's not going to be people running after every case that is reported or responding to things that are reported. We are going to be in the driving seat in terms of addressing corruption.
Wow. And yet, unfortunately, it seems like the police would top that list based on previous indices that have ranked them as the most corrupt institution in the country.
If they top the list, that is where our priority will be.
Who will do that audit?
We have the resources, and in fact, the resources for doing such an audit, the EACC, the Kenyan public, and the rest of the government machinery. It's not just EACC.
Wow.
We will lead the way, though.
You will lead the way.
Yeah.
Philip Kinisu, all eyes on you. Thank you very much for coming to studio for that interview. We're taking a short break. We're back, of course, with the sports and much more. Stay with Sunday Live.